Just miles away in Maryland today, a new indictment may be in the works, this time involving former Trump National Security Advisor John Bolton. A source briefed on the matter told NewsNation that a federal grand jury has been meeting today to consider charges related to the sharing of classified information. And those charges could be brought at any moment. Ambassador Bolton has strongly denied any wrongdoing since the FBI raided his home and his office in August. An FBI affidavit details how agents believe Bolton might have violated the Espionage Act by mishandling, allegedly, national defense information. Now, to most people who follow the news, this may seem like just another case, perhaps, of retribution, another example of the president getting back at those who have made his life miserable or difficult in the past few years. James Comey and Letitia James come to mind. But legal experts have noted that the case against Ambassador Bolton seems different, mainly because this possible indictment is a result of a years-long investigation starting all the way back in 2020. It continued throughout the Biden administration. Some of the allegations could center around notes that he was making to himself in an AOL email account. Yeah, it's the same AOL that you dialed into back in 2002 to forward chain emails about good fortune and to spam chat rooms under the username SkaterGirl99. Only John Bolton might have been using, according to the accusations, might have been using his AOL account to log summaries of his White House briefings. Here to break all this down for us is former Trump attorney Bill Brennan and former federal prosecutor Neama Rahmani. Neama, I'm going to start with you. These charges do feel different from the charges that Tish James and James Comey are facing. It involves notes, apparently, allegedly, that Ambassador Bolton was making to himself, sort of like a daily diary, while he was National Security Advisor and had a high-level security clearance. At issue is whether he was writing anything classified in this account.
No question, Elizabeth. It is a very different case than the indictment against Comey and Letitia James and what we anticipate Lisa Cook and Senator Adam Schiff are going to face. Obviously, those are individuals that went after President Trump in court. And even though Bolton has been a vocal critic of the president, he hasn't really been involved in those legal proceedings. And the allegations, of course, are much more serious. I'm not saying bank fraud or mortgage fraud or lying to Congress is okay, but we're talking about classified documents, national security, military and nuclear secrets. So if they were mishandled, doesn't matter if it's President Trump in Mar-a-Lago or John Bolton or former President Joe Biden. This is something that has to be taken very seriously and not like those other cases at all.
Bill, these allegations, if true, are very similar to what Hillary Clinton was accused of doing with her private email server, right?
Yes, Elizabeth, and hello, Neiman. Thank you again for having me, Elizabeth. They are very similar. It echoes all of the arguments we heard back in that investigation. But Neama makes a good point. If we look at the recent indictments of Mr. Comey and General James and juxtapose it to Ambassador Bolton, this is a matter that started almost 6 years ago in the first Trump administration. It was supposedly tabled while President Biden was in office, but now it's back. And the likely charge or the likely charges would probably fall under the umbrella of the Espionage Act, which is a 108-year-old law that's been partially codified in Title 18 in the criminal codes now. But, you mentioned that President Trump in the famous raid on Mar-a-Lago had this issue. President Biden allegedly had classified documents behind his 67 Corvette. The government takes these issues seriously, but it's ironic that Ambassador Bolton would come from a national security background, and if in fact he did what they're saying he did, use AOL, you've got mail, to store notes about classified documents and/or classified meetings, if nothing else, he should be indicted for stupidity.
Well, we don't know yet.
We don't know that. No, it's if he did.
We don't know anything. All we know is what sources are leaking, and who knows how accurate that information is. But we do know, Neama, that this investigation apparently started back up when U.S. intelligence said Bolton's email had been hacked, they believe by Iran. And reportedly, as part of their investigation into the hacking of Bolton's email by Iran, which has vowed to kill him, they searched Bolton's home, and then they seized his phones and computer drives and documents, and the documents apparently may have had classified markings on them. Is it a crime just to have classified documents in your possession?
Not necessarily. The retention has to be willful. So you have to know you have them in your possession, and you have
And
to
no, you're not
intend to
supposed
keep them.
to.
Exactly. So different laws have different intent components. This is a willful component. So really what Bolton knew, and, we touched upon it a little bit, he's the former national security advisor. So he really should know better. If we remember the special counsel's investigation into President Biden, when he had classified documents, one of the conclusions was, well, he had them, but he negligently had them. He was a well-meaning old man. So you really have to know that you have the documents for these types of charges, whether it's the Espionage Act or other federal crimes related to the willful retention of classified documents.
Bill, what are the chances the grand jury indicts him on this?
Well, I mean, it's anybody's guess. Certainly, he's not indicted as of this moment in time. And of course, if he is indicted, he's presumed innocent. Having said all that, it looks like they're probably headed that way. I base that, and I certainly would defer to Neama with his background too, but I base that on some judge or magistrate judge approving a search warrant for both Ambassador Bolton's residence and his office in D.C. And then we saw, and you don't know what the boxes are, but you saw the FBI agents carrying boxes that they could be comic books. But I mean, it doesn't look good for Ambassador Bolton.
Well, and we should remind our viewers that in a grand jury proceeding, when a prosecutor or the Department of Justice goes in and asks for an indictment, they're presenting only, it's one-sided. There's no defense. The prosecution doesn't have to present exculpatory evidence, which is evidence that would exonerate Ambassador Bolton or whomever else they're discussing. Neama, Bolton, as you pointed out, has been an outspoken critic of Trump for years. He has the same lawyer as New York's Attorney General Letitia James. Tish James is saying that Trump is vindictively prosecuting her. Former FBI Director James Comey has already filed to have the charges dismissed because of, quote, vindictive prosecution. Do you think Bolton will do the same? His attorney has already said that he's being targeted for vindictive political reasons.
Elizabeth, I think that's absolutely right. And I agree with Bill. I mean, I think an indictment is coming. There's so much smoke. But in terms of the defense, Abbe Lowell, we know when he represented Hunter Biden, he raised this defense. He told the court in the Letitia James case that he's going to raise the defense. So there's selective prosecution and there's vindictive prosecution. And they're both very tough to prove. But selective means that you're being prosecuted for a constitutionally prohibited reason. And in this case, Bolton's going to argue it's his free speech. It's his political speech. He's an outspoken critic of the president. Vindictive is a little bit different. You're being punished for a constitutionally protected action. And Letitia James is going to argue that her civil fraud lawsuit against the president was protected. But very high burden. The president himself raised these same arguments in his criminal case, and they were rejected as well. So expect to see the argument, but I don't expect them to win, Elizabeth.
It's a very unusual thing to do. It very rarely succeeds. But, Bill, I think you were on the show when we were talking about this with James Comey. There might be a chance in this case, given all of President Trump's very public remarks.
Elizabeth, it's interesting in the Comey matter. The U.S. attorney could have filed an information. That's just the prosecutor drawing up a charging document.
Yeah.
She didn't. She presented it to a panel of grand jurors. And what's interesting about that particular indictment is she asked them to return an indictment on 3 counts, and they only picked 2. So they were a deliberative body. Mr. Lowell's a terrific lawyer, but he's got an uphill battle with that argument.
All right. Bill Brennan, Neama Rahmani, great to have 2 legal minds.